Hey everyone, my name is Matt Latourelle. I work for Ballotpedia here, and I'm excited to be here. Joseph is a web developer who works on our website, and I do sort of project management, the director of technology at Ballotpedia. And we're just really wanted to just share a little bit of our MediaWiki use case. We're really excited to be here with you all and learn from you primarily, and just kind of share information. We haven't gotten too deep into the inner workings of MediaWiki, so we're just really looking to learn more about that. But we've been using MediaWiki for, I guess, coming up on 17 years now, something like that. So from the editing standpoint, hopefully we can share some use cases with you. So I'll just talk a little bit about Ballotpedia and what we do, and then leave some time at the end if you have questions for how we kind of work on the technical side, and maybe Joseph can help me out with those. So Ballotpedia, our website is at ballotpedia.org, our primary website. We have some other apps as well, but we're an encyclopedia of American politics, as it says here, covering policy, politics, and elections. We started in 2007, and we're at about 600,000 articles right now. This is broken up between different aspects of U.S. politics, so a lot of it's local coverage. The wiki was really started to try to fill some information gaps, and that's still the aim of our nonprofit, is to fill information gaps in a nonpartisan way. We started with a lot of emphasis on ballot measures and what they do, state legislative elections, some of these areas of politics that were less known. And so far we're at 1.4 billion lifetime page views, I suppose. This was from since last year, so depending on the even odd year, we get a lot of traffic to the website and have been able to kind of, I guess, scale up with MediaWiki pretty well. Here's our kind of basic look at our funding models. We're, like I said, a nonprofit, so we're getting donor revenue. We do some data sales now, as well as custom development or research grants. So a little bit about why we're using MediaWiki. Like I said, we're still kind of learning of some of the inner workings and wanting to kind of expand our use cases, but when we first started, it presented like a lot of pretty clear options. Number one is just simple for staff, and previously we did have volunteer editors, like a typical wiki that would come in and do editing, just the markdown and all that is easy to teach people. It's, like I said, we aim to be an encyclopedia, so that kind of encyclopedic design inspired by Wikipedia made sense for us, and we've since been able to customize it, adding custom extensions, and appreciate like the open source nature and the ability to do that. So that's all worked really well for us. Current use case, like I said, mostly just basic MediaWiki features, and building on top of that different custom extensions for new apps and things. Templates and transclusion is heavily used by our editors, as they're, like I said, 600,000 articles, but they're trying to make edits as election results happen, and keep up with thousands of different candidate profiles or election profiles at a time, and making a change in one place and having it propagate to other places. That's a key feature for us. And then another key feature is we've developed a custom widget extension that essentially interacts with our database, where we have started storing a lot of data as opposed to the narrative content that we keep in Wiki Markdown, and just being able to have the flexibility to display essentially that app on the website as well. So our kind of future interests, at least for now, in terms of looking at our website and software, learning best practices. There's a lot of things that this group has been working on and talking about that I think we could learn from, or give as tools to our editors or our users. we're always trying to keep up with upgrades, trying to get to the long-term support version, and Joseph's been very instrumental in that. We're very, sensitive to those changes given the number of users and things like that. So just trying to make sure we have good testing built out and processes to be able to make those upgrades and test them. I had mentioned, some custom sort of widget extensions and wanting to do more sort of dynamic widgets. So that's like just a layer on top of the wiki. But so far we've been able to kind of merge those two things. In looking at all the kind of the AI world out there, we'd like to make the data we have digestible to AI models, potentially as a revenue source, or to build tools for ourselves off of that, such as improved search and things like that. How do we take this content and organize it in a way for that? That kind of goes to the idea of improving the site search and some work on the site skin as well that I think apply to the MediaWiki side of things. So that's just to kind of give, I guess, a little bit of perspective on our use case, and I think that was all I wanted to say, and mostly just wanted to kind of learn from you all and meet you all and offer to answer any questions about how we're working or what kind of challenges we've come across or anything like that. So thanks for having us. Any questions? Yes?
I was wondering if you could talk about why you use LTS versions and not upgrade to the newest version every time it's released.
All right, so the question was, why do we focus on LTS versions as opposed to the latest new version? Do you want to take a stab at that?
I'll let you handle the first way, as a project manager.
Okay, yes, that's a good. So yeah, it's very costly for us to make upgrades. It takes a long time. We have to do we have to do all of our tests and everything like that. And so mostly it's just because of that. We just don't have the capacity, especially as a small team, to stay up to date with the very latest version. So the long-term support is mostly just for us. It's how we handle most of our software upgrades. It's like, let's target that. That's kind of like the baseline. So yeah, from a project management standpoint, I'd say.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. I think our current goal is every non-major election to aim for every LTS, and that's kind of our allotted time for upgrades. So that's why we mainly stay with LTS.
If you don't mind, could you do a little demo of Ballotpedia? For people
Oh, sure, let's do it. Yes, we'll do a little Ballotpedia demo. I'll add a new tab here. So this is Ballotpedia. This is our main page. Like I said, encyclopedia of politics. So there's a ton of different stuff on here, and we can jump around to all sorts of different encyclopedic articles. We're trying to write as a nonpartisan kind of neutral source, putting all that information out there. A big part of what we do is, as well as sort of overview pages like this, it would be profile pages. So I'll take a stab at finding my congressman.
Would you be able to bring up local Sandusky information?
Let's do it. Let's see what we have. We probably don't have too much on Sandusky. Most of our elections coverage right now, we're working on expanding down the ballot. But we're focused on the top 100 cities right now and expanding all the way down the ballot in certain states, although I think Ohio might be on that list, I'm not sure. But you'll see, for example, we have some different stuff from Sandusky. Maybe we'll go to 2024 and see what was going on there. Yeah, so this is our down ballot coverage. So we have, some different county elections that were happening last year. It looks like a lot of uncontested elections, maybe not very exciting for the people who lived here. But this guy ran for coroner. I don't know why I picked coroner. I don't mean to be dark here. But just to give you kind of an example, we do some newsletters as well. this is our daily brew, and so we'll just kind of do like a summary of political events and some context every day that goes to your email. We do some other like topic-specific newsletters. And we also have a few other apps. These are not on MediaWiki, but one of our other big apps is this legislation tracker. So we have different topics. This one is covering election administration legislation, and we do sort of bill search and summaries of what different state legislative moves are happening around this topic. So there's just a lot of information, and I think the wiki was just a really natural way for us to get started, and we've been able to build on top of that pretty much in any direction so far that we've needed to. Yes.
Great. I think you have that slide of like the upcoming things you want to do for Ballotpedia. Yes, learning best practices, making data digestible for AI models. That is very interesting for sure. What sort of efforts will you be doing to make such data digestible?
So I'll repeat the question, and then I'll hand it over to Joseph. We're talking about what efforts are we planning to do to make data digestible for AI models?
That's a good question, and that's part of the reason we're here, is to learn what other MediaWiki sites have implemented and see which works best for us. Like Matt said, we are a small team, so we don't have the resources to devote a large chunk of time to this. So I think MediaWiki lends itself very well to the digestion model, so I think that will work really well in the future.
Okay, sounds good. So all this is the way to go then. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Some people online say that the Ballotpedia is an invaluable resource for them.
Oh, awesome. I'm glad you're finding use for it.
Yeah. My question is, to what extent has Ballotpedia become like an official resource, if at all?
Good question. The question was, to what extent has Ballotpedia become an official resource? I guess I would say we're not an official resource in terms of, the U.S. government, but we have seen a growth in people citing us as if we're an official resource, if that makes sense. So I think that's shown like a level of trust there that has been built over the years of just trying to do this in a pretty comprehensive, and nonpartisan way. So I guess that's the main way we would gauge it is, just in the way people are referencing our work, not as, oh, Ballotpedia said this and maybe you should believe them or not, but it kind of with the tone of like, oh, Ballotpedia said it, so it must be true. We've seen a little bit more of that. There was a rating that Ad Fontes does every year. I think it's somewhat regularly of different media organizations and their kind of neutrality scale and trustworthiness scale, and we were happy to be right in the middle of their rating, so that made us very happy. Right, not too left, not too right in the middle. So, yeah, mostly just that's just our aim. Not that we're like an official, government entity, but I think that allows us, the flexibility to try to cover everything, maybe in a more neutral way. Yes.
I'm curious if you have any intentions or any platforms that are totally nonpartisan, like increased government participation, or any initiatives like that, or if it's really just providing statistical data. And
Sure.
If so, how do you execute this?
Yeah. So the question was, do we have any platforms to increase voter participation or government participation as opposed to just kind of the statistics, like information to voters? That's a good question. I think our main mission and goal right now, we refer to as like closing the ballot information gap. And we think that with more information about, oh, now I actually can make an opinion because I figured out a little bit about these candidates. I think our kind of goal is to just provide that, and then hopefully that encourages you to voice your opinions. We haven't done much with like voter outreach or, or like get registered or those kinds of initiatives. There's a lot of other groups that are doing pretty well with that. So I'd say, yeah, off the top of my head, there hasn't been any like direct like increased government participation outside of just, we think, providing the information to people in a navigable, easier way will help like reduce that feeling of like grossness around wanting to vote. So, oh, yeah, I'll pull up our one of our main products that kind of gets to that. We have a sample ballot tool. This is like one of the easiest portals, I guess, in terms of entering your address and getting the data that's relevant to you, essentially. So geolocated elections that are coming up. I won't do a live demo of this, just that I know there are elections coming up, but if you go to this website, you can check that out.
We could give you the address for Armstrong.
Sure. I don't know.
So 6100 Columbus Avenue.
Right there. All right. Let's see if you have elections. You might have just had your primary. So there's no upcoming elections. I think you might have one later in the fall, though.
But that by itself is good information.
There you go. Right.
Yeah.
The city of Bothell in Washington has upcoming elections for city council.
Do you know an address in Bothell?
I don't know anyone in Bothell.
I don't think we have Washington local elections in the database yet. But yeah, you should, if you find an address. I always just pick a McDonald's in the town and then put that address in if I need to test. That's my secret.
So that would be an example of the gaps.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Closing the gaps is having everything that's being voted on everywhere in the United States. If you had everything being voted on everywhere, you would have closed all the gaps.
Yes. Our goal is to have every election in the United States listed, not only like names of the candidates who are running, local ballot measures. That's one part of it, and the other part of closing that gap is some information about those candidates. So whether it's at minimum maybe a link to their campaign website, but we do surveys as well, questionnaires that we send out to those candidates so they can state their case in their own words, and do some of the research.
One Microsoft way. Yeah, Redmond, Washington, 9052.
Is that your address?
Yeah.
Oh, good choice.
32.
We got August 5th.
Oh, yeah.
Let's check it out. All right. So we got some special elections for the state legislature here. Yes, this is a great example. Thank you.
Oh, it's an yeah, special election. Okay.
This is, yeah, and so then we're trying to get this kind of information. Okay, who endorsed this person? That kind of thing. What are they saying? I guess you can find their LinkedIn at least. So that's a start.
Just curious, if you search out for this information, do you ever get donations from people who are saying, we're going to have an election, here's our information? Do you get that?
Yeah, so the question being, like, do we go look for the information, or do people kind of send it to us, submit it to us? It's primarily us going to get it. Most of our staff, we have a staff of maybe close to 80 people now, most of which are research staff. And so it's a lot of just kind of scouring the internet, trying to build tools to help them do that efficiently, of course. The candidates, we do have this survey, and so they call it Candidate Connection. We do send emails to candidates and say, hey, tell us about, what you're running for and that kind of thing. And occasionally, we'll work with some other data partners to fill in the blanks on some of the research. But for the most part, because we want to use official sources like government sources, we want to go get that ourselves just to make sure it's, follows our procedures. Yeah. Yes?
I was just going to say, there's two questions from YouTube as well.
Oh, great. Some questions from YouTube?
Yep.
All right, is there a GitHub repo or source where the community collaborates on Ballotpedia extensions? No, there's not. Not currently. We're doing all that in-house at the moment with our development team. It's a fun idea, though. Yeah, I like that idea. We're not necessarily opposed to it. So thank you.
I'm sure there are a lot of people who would like to see them.
Yeah, that's very cool. Mm-hmm.
The other question was, has Ballotpedia recently had an increase in AI scraping? Have you implemented any strategies to keep the site up during an attack/scrape?
Have we seen an increase in AI scraping, and have we implemented any strategies to keep the site up? Amidst that, yes. We had always been scraped. I mean, I think I would want to scrape us, right? There's a lot of good data on there. I get it. But yeah, I think we have seen an increase in that with the AI, and I'll let Joseph maybe say a little bit about preventative measures.
Yes, I would say similar to the previous presentation, we've seen a definite spike in the scraping, and the methods, the way they scrape is less than friendly. So we've mainly focused on WAF, various rules. We're actually going to really push to switch to Jeffrey's extension, because our WAF is actually doing quite a bit of work that's similar to that. So it'd be nice to have that kind of built in. But yes, definite spike that's causing us issues every once in a while.
Yes.
So if my city doesn't have super detailed information here, but for the next election, I think this is really cool, and I would like to be able to do my research on Ballotpedia, how can I make that happen?
Ooh, great question. The question was if my city has an upcoming election and Ballotpedia doesn't have information for those elections yet, but you want to essentially contribute, is there a way for that? We do have a volunteer program. It's a little bit right now geared towards students as opposed to just like people from the community to contribute their information. But we are looking at ways to expand that so that people might be able to contribute as sort of like one-time events. But currently we don't have a method for that.
So is there alternatively a way that I can contact my city council and say, hey, do you guys know about Ballotpedia? Can you start pushing the information to them? Do you have like
Yeah.
that I could link to my city council?
Yeah, so in terms of whether there's ways to contact your lawmakers or your candidates that you know and try to push them towards Ballotpedia, we definitely would love that. We do try to work with like the local election clerks a lot, you know, because they're the ones coming up with the candidate lists and publishing those, and so it's really helpful for us to have that kind of shout out of like, hey, when they come email you about the candidate list, you know, this is an important thing. The other thing I would say is if you know who the candidates are, or even if the city council members are running again, you know, as incumbents, the best way I think for them to submit their information is through the candidate survey. So you can go to ballotpedia.org/survey, and if they fill that out, that's a good way for them to submit their own information, essentially. Yeah, Mark?
Do you have anything published on your site about the volunteer program or anything like that?
Do we have anything published about the volunteer program? That is a great question. I assume we do, but let's find out together. Here's our volunteer program. We got some stats. There's a couple different like avenues for becoming volunteers. Like I said, a lot of our volunteers are students, so we call that the Fellows Program, but we also have some other, a little more like highly vetted and trained roles, like community researchers and trusted researchers to help do QA on the different submissions. So yeah, ballotpedia.org/support/volunteer, there's a lot of information there. And this is something we're really, I guess, to the previous question of how to submit information, you know, we're really trying to lean into this because there is a lot of information that we all know about our local communities, you know. And so wanting to figure out ways to take that in, but also balance that with our need to have things pretty thoroughly vetted and accurate and nonpartisan.
Have people asked you to expand beyond the U.S. or to help them
Have we been asked to expand beyond the U.S.? I believe that has come up in the past, maybe once or twice. The model is, you know, something that could definitely apply to different countries. I think it's, depending on the country, it's especially challenging in the U.S. because of the way we administer our elections. It is very local and distributed, whereas in other countries they might have things at, you know, more at the national or state level, and then there's less data sources to go collect it, so it might be a little bit easier job. Currently, we're trying to, you know, finish our job in the U.S. before we expand to other countries, so we haven't taken anyone up on that, but it has come up. Thank you all for the great questions. Thanks for having us.